Before sunrise, ancient Egypt forces a brutal divide. In one life you wake behind carved stone walls, while servants lower their eyes, and breakfast appears before a man treated like a living god. In the other, you open your eyes on packed earth with dust in your mouth, smoke in your lungs, and the weight of the day already pressing on your ribs. People remember Egypt as gold, symmetry, sacred animals, painted tombs, and monuments that look almost impossible. But for most of the people trapped beneath that image, it was not wonder first. It was labor, hunger, hierarchy, heat, mud, obedience, and the constant reminder that someone else's comfort was being built out of your exhaustion. If you wake at the bottom of that world, slave, servant, laborer, peasant, morning does not begin with elegance. It begins with soreness. Your back remembers yesterday before your mind does. The floor is hard. The room is crowded. The smell is a mix of stale reed mats, sweat, damp clay, and old smoke trapped in walls that never quite dry. There is no privacy, no soft transition into the day, no slow ritual of waking. Children stir beside adults. Someone coughs. Someone curses the flies. Someone is already outside hauling water before the light fully arrives. You do not rise because you are refreshed. You rise because staying down changes nothing. The work will still be there, and so will the overseer's voice, and so will the sun, climbing higher like a threat. Now picture the opposite morning. The ruler's chamber is shaded, planned, controlled. Linen lies clean against skin. Scented oil cuts through the smell of the body. Food is not a question but an expectation. Bread arrives soft, beer arrives strained, fruit appears in bowls, and the labor needed to make all of it possible remains invisible, because power prefers its miracles with the fingerprints wiped away. Every object in that room tells the same story. Somebody else carried it, ground it, polished it, carved it, or fetched it. Luxury in the ancient world was not simply wealth. It was distance. Distance from dirt. Distance from waiting. Distance from consequences. The pharaoh does not wake into the day. The day is arranged around him. Outside that protected center, the fantasy collapses back into work. Grain must be ground. Water must be carried. Mud brick must be shaped. Tools must be found before someone else takes the least broken ones. If you are sent to fields, the river gives life, but never gently. Its gift comes with bending, dragging, lifting, and timing every movement against seasons you do not control. If you are sent to a building site, every stone feels heavier by noon, and the dust works its way into your teeth until even breathing tastes like work. Nobody around you is asking whether life feels meaningful. They are asking whether the ration will stretch, whether the child at home is sick, whether the sandals will hold one more day. The great lie of polished history is that monuments seem to rise from civilization itself, as if pyramids and temples simply appeared when enough genius met enough faith. What disappears in that version is the body. Your body. Bodies hauling limestone on rough paths. Bodies balancing loads across shoulders rubbed raw by rope. Bodies standing ankle deep in mud, shaping the bricks that will bake under a white sky. Bodies that do not get carved into the official image unless they are kneeling, bowing, or serving. Ancient Egypt could create beauty on a scale that still stuns people. But beauty at that scale was organized by hierarchy. Splendor did not cancel suffering. It arranged it. And while your day is measured in loads, blisters, and commands, the ruler's day is measured in ceremony. He is dressed, presented, announced. Gold shines better when somebody else is hungry. The symbols matter because symbols are power made visible. Crowns, staffs, painted walls, thrones, incense, fan bearers, musicians, scribes waiting with records and petitions. All of it reinforces one message before a single word is spoken. He is not merely above you. He belongs to another category of existence entirely. The system survives because it is political, economic, and spiritual at the same time. You are told the order of the world is sacred, which is a convenient idea when you are standing at the top of it, and a suffocating one when you are buried at the bottom. Food shows the difference more brutally than architecture ever could. For you, eating is practical. Bread that can be coarse, beer that can be weak, onions, maybe fish if fortune is kind, maybe dates, maybe nothing extra at all. Sometimes the meal is less about satisfaction than about delaying weakness. Hunger in an ancient laboring body is not dramatic music and sudden collapse. It is the dull anger behind the eyes, the wobble in the knees, the short temper, the way your thoughts narrow because the body keeps cutting the world down to one question: will there be enough? Meanwhile, the elite table is variety, texture, choice, better cuts, cleaner preparation, sweeter things, colder storage, finer vessels. One world eats to continue. The other eats to display control over abundance. Even clothing tells the truth. Popular imagination dresses everyone in crisp white linen, glowing under a perfect sun, as if daily life in Egypt was one endless mural. But when you are poor, cloth is not image. It is wear. It scratches when cheap, hangs badly when old, and thins long before you want it to. Sweat darkens it. Dust settles into it. Repairs remain visible because there is no shame in visible poverty when poverty is everywhere. By contrast, the upper world turns fabric into performance. Better linen, cleaner folds, jewelry, cosmetics, wigs, sandals that have not already surrendered to the road. The gap is not fashion. The gap is whether your appearance is shaped by necessity or by presentation. By midday, the heat begins to press like a hand on the back of your neck. The same sun that modern documentaries frame as majestic becomes personal when there is no shade that belongs to you. Mud walls trap warmth, open ground reflects light upward, and stone seems to hold the day inside it. Your skin burns, your feet ache, and the air itself feels heavier to swallow. Labor under heat changes how time moves. Minutes stop feeling like units and start feeling like resistance. A half hour becomes a test of will. A full day becomes something crossed, not lived. And when someone tells you ancient people were tougher, what that usually means is that many of them were given no choice except endurance. In the palace or temple complex, heat still exists, but power edits it. Shade can be arranged, air can be moved with fans, water can be brought, perfume can soften the atmosphere. Servants can absorb the discomfort that would otherwise rise toward the elite. This is what privilege looks like before modern machines. Not the end of hardship, but the ability to transfer it. If a room is cool, somebody carried the water that helped cool it. If the ruler smells pleasant, somebody pressed the oils, mixed the fragrance, and applied it. If the floor is clean, somebody bent over it. The fantasy of royal life is not false because luxury did not exist. It is false because luxury is too often shown without the chain of bodies attached to it. Then there is punishment, or more precisely, the fear of it. Life at the bottom does not require constant spectacle to feel controlled. A raised voice can be enough. The knowledge that rations can be cut, that beatings can happen, that shame can be public, that complaints can disappear into silence. These things settle into the body long before anyone lays a hand on you. Obedience in a rigid world is built from repetition. You learn how far to look, when to speak, how fast to move, and when pretending not to notice is safer than seeing too much. The cruel genius of hierarchy is that it teaches people to manage themselves. The overseer does not need to stand beside every worker if the workers carry part of his authority inside their own fear. Religion deepens everything. In Egypt, order was not just practical, it was cosmic. The ruler was not merely rich, he was tied to divine legitimacy, to the balance of the world, to the flow of life itself. That idea made the system feel larger than argument. If the pharaoh stands close to the gods, then serving the structure around him can be framed as serving reality itself. That does not mean everybody at the bottom loved the arrangement. It means rebellion had to push against more than force. It had to push against myth, ritual, identity, and the ancient human habit of believing that what has always been must somehow be natural. Nothing protects inequality better than sacred language wrapped around ordinary exploitation. And yet, even in that system, the truth leaked through daily life. You would see it in the worker who limps but keeps carrying, in the woman stretching grain further than it should go, in the child learning labor before play has had much chance to exist. in the hands cracked from wet clay and rough fiber, in the tired silence at the end of a workday when no one has energy left for grand thoughts about empire. Civilization looks cleanest from far away. Up close, it smells like effort. The river may glitter, the temples may tower, the banners may flutter in dry wind. But beneath every impressive surface lies the grind of ordinary people who cannot afford to stop. The pharaoh, meanwhile, lives inside insulation. Ceremony does not only honor him, it protects him from reality. When courtiers bow, when reports are filtered through scribes, when servants anticipate needs before he speaks them, the world becomes softer at the edges. Bad news reaches power dressed for permission. Hard labor reaches power as tribute, taxes, production, completion. The suffering behind success is translated into numbers, inventories, schedules, offerings, and grand achievements. This is another ancient luxury. Not just having more, but seeing less. The farther up the hierarchy you rise, the easier it becomes to mistake other people's strain for stability. Night offers no equal ending. The ruler can withdraw into guarded space, washed and attended, while entertainment, conversation, ritual, and rest continue under controlled conditions. At the bottom, evening is not reward so much as recovery with a deadline. You return carrying the day in your joints. The food is simple, the room is still crowded. The air may cool, but not enough to erase what the heat took from you. Someone mends, someone rubs sore legs, someone counts what little remains, someone stares without speaking because the body is too empty for stories. Sleep is precious, but never secure. Tomorrow is already standing outside, waiting to be let in. And disease lives close to all of this, not as a dramatic curse descending from nowhere, but as the ordinary companion of crowded housing, animals, insects, spoiled water, strain, and poor sanitation. The elite are not immune to illness, but they are buffered by better space, better food, cleaner conditions, and better access to whatever care the period can offer. The poor live nearer to every source of contamination and farther from every protection.
Keep moving.
That is one of the oldest patterns in human history. Wealth does not eliminate mortality. It negotiates with it more effectively. The low-born pay and exposure. This is why the slave versus pharaoh image hits so hard. It compresses an entire civilization into one unbearable truth. The same state that can organize dazzling beauty can also normalize radical inequality. A person can spend a day hauling, scraping, grinding, and obeying, so another person can spend a day radiating divinity in polished rooms. The gap is not accidental. It is engineered, justified, repeated, and then preserved in monuments that later generations admire without always asking who paid the hidden price. The stone remembers the ruler's name. The dust remembers everybody else. To be fair to history, Egypt was not one single frozen nightmare where every poor person lived the exact same life, and every elite person floated untouched through perfection. There were layers, professions, differences in region, shifts over centuries, and moments of mobility or favor. Skilled workers could hold status beyond what outsiders expect. Scribes could escape some of the hardest physical labor. Households varied. The story is not simple because human worlds never are, but complexity should not become perfume. The central contrast remains. The closer you lived to power, the more protected your body was. The farther you lived from it, the more your body became the tool that paid for civilization. And that body paid in small ways as much as big ones. In rough sleep, in repetitive strain, in dust inhaled over years, in carrying weight badly, because there is no perfect way to carry too much, in standing longer than the knees want, in walking farther than the sandals can handle, in swallowing irritation because speaking freely is dangerous, in learning to live with discomfort so constant that it stops announcing itself and simply becomes the texture of existence. This is what many historical fantasies edit out. Misery is not always a dramatic event. Often, it is the background condition of a life built for somebody else's advantage. Even the afterlife reveals the divide. Egypt is famous for tombs, burial goods, painted walls, careful preparation for eternity. But those famous images mostly belong to people who could afford to imagine eternity in luxury. For the powerful, death could be managed as legacy. For the poor, remembrance was thinner, materials were fewer, and the dream of permanence was often swallowed by necessity. The civilization that obsessed over what comes after death was also a civilization where many of the living had to focus on making it to tomorrow. Nothing exposes social contrast like who gets to prepare beautifully for forever and who spends the present just trying not to break. The most unsettling part is how familiar all of this feels. Strip away the crowns and chariots, and the logic remains modern. A polished center surrounded by invisible labor. Public glory built on private exhaustion. A sacred story told about order so the arrangement feels noble. People at the top buffered from the costs that define life below. People at the bottom told, directly or indirectly, that endurance is virtue. Ancient Egypt looks distant until you realize the emotional architecture never really disappeared. Only the costumes changed. That is why the pharaoh fascinates and the worker haunts. One represents what power once remembered: permanence, control, magnificence, divine light. The other represents what history often uses up and then quietly steps over: sweat, duty, fragility, routine, and the endless physical negotiation required to keep grand systems standing. We inherit the monuments because stone survives. We have to work harder to imagine the people whose names did not. They are not on every wall, but they are in every wall. Without them, the image collapses. So if you could choose only one side of ancient Egypt, the answer becomes brutally simple. Do you want the version bathed in gold, incense, cool shade, and distance from consequence? Or the version made of dust, labor, rationed energy, and obedience enforced by need? Most people in that world never had that choice. That is the point. The greatness of Egypt was real, but it was not equally shared. For one person, the Nile was a backdrop to power. For another, it was the edge of survival. And the next time someone shows you ancient Egypt as pure wonder, look past the symmetry. Listen for the grinding stone, the cough in a crowded room, the slap of wet mud shaped into bricks, the quiet tension in a worker's shoulders before another load is lifted. Imagine the smell beneath the perfume, the heat outside the canopy, the hunger behind the monument. Then the civilization becomes more impressive, not less, but also more honest. Because the real brutality of ancient Egypt was not only in what it built, it was in how unevenly it allowed people to live while building it.